The Antonine Plague erupted in 165 CE at the height of Roman power throughout the Mediterranean world during the reign of the last of the 5 good emperors. The first phase of the outbreak would last until 180 CE, affecting the entirety of the Roman Empire, while a second outbreak occurred in 251 to 266 CE, compounding the effects of the earlier outbreak. It has been suggested by some historians that the plague represents a useful starting point for understanding the beginning of the decline of the Roman Empire in West, but also the underpinning to its ultimate fall. Gael, a Greek physician and author of Methodus Medendi, not only witnessed the outbreak, but describes its symptoms and quotes. Among the common symptoms were fever, diarrhea, vomiting, thirstiness, swollen throat, and coughing. Those infected suffered from the illness for roughly 2 weeks. Not all who caught the disease died, and those who survived developed immunity. Based on Galen's description, modern researchers have concluded that the disease affecting the empire was most likely smallpox. The Roman historian Cassius estimated 2,000 deaths per day in Rome at the height of the outbreak. In the second outbreak, the estimated rate of death was much higher, upwards 5,000 per day. It is most probable that this extreme death toll was due to the disease exposure being new to people living around the Mediterranean. All told, it has been suggested that a quarter to a third of the entire population perished, estimated at 60 to 70 million throughout the empire. An interesting fact is that Emperor Marcus Aurelius launched persecutions against Christians who refused to pay homage to the gods, which the emperor believed in turn angered the gods, whose wrath made itself known in the form of a devastating epidemic. Ironically, the anti-Christian attacks produced the opposite effect amongst the general population. The Black Death was a plague pandemic that devastated Europe from 3047 to 3052 CE, killing an estimated 25 to 30 million people. The disease, caused by a bacillus bacteria and carried by fleas on rodents, originated in Central Asia and was taken from Turkey to the Crimea by Mongols. This plague entered Europe throughout the Black Sea. It was known as the Black Death because it could turn the skin and sores black, while other symptoms included fever and joint pains. With up to 2/3 of sufferers dying from the disease, it is estimated that between 30% and 50% of the population of those places affected died from the Black Death. The death toll was so high that it had significant consequences on European medieval society as a whole, with a shortage of farmers resulting in demands for an end to serfdom, a general questioning of authority and rebellions, and the entire abandonment of many towns and villages. It would take 200 years for the population of Europe to recover to the level seen before the Black Death. Another interesting fact is that the first quarantine was passed into law in the port city of Ragusa, today's Triponic, on July 27, 1377, during the bubonic plague or Black Death.
Now we're gonna talk about the plague of Justinian. First of all, it had its origin with green ships from Egypt carrying pestilence-laden rodents that spread the disease via warehouse where the plague thrived. When it arrived in Constantinople in 541 Common Era, roughly 300,000 people perished only in the first year. The Justinian plague spread through Palestine and the Byzantine Empire, and then throughout the Mediterranean. Some interesting facts are that the plague is named after the Byzantine Emperor Justinian, who reigned from 527 to 565 Common Era. Under his reign, the Byzantine Empire reached its greatest extent, controlling territory that stretched from the Middle East to Western Europe. Justinian also got sick with the plague and survived. However, his empire gradually lost territory in the time after the plague struck. It's believed to be the first significant appearance of the bubonic plague. This nasty, fast-acting disease started as a slight fever that quickly moved into swelling and black blisters filled with pus. The lucky ones fell into a deep coma and died, while the less fortunate suffered from delusions and paranoia. In the end, between 30 and 50 million people, about the half of the world's population, across 3 continents died. Survivors obtained immunity, and eventually the disease had nowhere else to spread.